At Urban Saints, we're increasingly keen to promote inclusion in all of the work that we're connected with, both in our groups and the churches that connect to us, and with the experiences that we offer to children and young people across the country. And with this in mind, I'm joined today by Tim Wood and Philippa Woodcraft from Through the Roof, who are going to share with us a few thoughts and ideas about how our groups and churches can be more inclusive to the children and young people that they journey with. So Tim and Philippa, welcome. It's great to have you here with us today. Tim, perhaps you could start us off by giving us a little bit of the history of Through the Roof, what the background is to the organisation, and then perhaps explain a little bit about what your role is as part of the team at Through the Roof.
Yeah, sure. Through the Roof is a Christian disability charity. We've been going for around 14 years now, and our vision is to see a world where all people live interdependently, mutually giving and receiving as God intended. And we believe that that incorporates disabled people and non-disabled people coming together to be church and the fullness of what that means. So our mission, if you like, is to transform lives through disabled people. We believe really that the church can be enriched by the inclusion of disabled people and its diversity. And our two main aims are to provide life-changing experiences for people, and also equip the church to offer the same.
That's great. And your role within Through the Roof?
My role is the Chief Executive. I've been in post just over 6 months. Very privileged to take on the role. It's a huge task, but one I really believe that God's called me into, and it's very exciting. We've got some new team members on board, and really looking to the future to move Through the Roof forward in resourcing the church and providing more opportunities for disabled people to have life-changing experiences and to be fully involved in the kingdom.
That's great. And as you try and do that, as you reach out to the churches and try and inspire them to get more involved in supporting and working with all ages, but particularly children and young people that have a disability or a special need, what are the barriers? What are the things that get in the way of churches being able to do that?
I think there are 4 main barriers for facing disabled people. Firstly, it's an understanding or a misunderstanding of disabled people and what can be achieved, the expectations of disabled people. Secondly, I think there's obvious physical barriers, such as a physical environment of steps and perhaps colour contrast for people with sight loss, and just noise, perhaps for people with difficulty in hearing, or even who are people who are averse to noise. So that's the second barrier. A third barrier is information, and actually providing information that is going to get to disabled people. Is it provided in alternative formats, for example, large print or braille or audio or online? And the fourth barrier is looking at the organisational barrier. Are there things that are policies or things that are in the way of enabling disabled people to be more fully involved? So could you as an organisation have a specific budget that looks at addressing this issue and allocating money to be more inclusive? Could you assign a buddy to a group that sort of take responsibility for including disabled people in that group? Is there a policy in the church that says, yeah, we're a welcoming, inclusive, inviting church regardless of disability or ability? So I think they're the 4 main barriers.
Oh, that's great, thank you. Now, Philippa, we'll in a few moments get to your key role in getting that message across to churches across the UK. But before we discuss that, Perhaps you could give us a little bit of your story with Through the Roof, where you first came into contact with the organisation and your experiences since then.
Well, I've been praying for some more opportunities to do God's work, and this was back in 2009. And I then got a phone call asking if I would like to go on a mission trip to Guatemala. I didn't even know where it was, and I hadn't heard of Through the Roof then, but I knew in my heart that that's what God wanted me to do. So I said yes, and I spoke to Tim and I found out more information about Through the Roof. And we went to Guatemala back in 2009, and we've been twice since then. And what we go and do is to promote the lives of disabled children, because in Guatemala, like we were here 50 years ago, they treat disabled people as outcasts, and they can be in hospitals all their life, they can be abandoned, they can be shut at home. They're basically a disgrace. So we go and spread the word that disabled people can live normal lives, and we give them biblical references, because they believe that disability is caused by sin. It's a punishment for somebody's sin, either the parents or the child's. So we give them the biblical references to say that Jesus doesn't say that, and that God doesn't believe that it's, He didn't bring it about for a punishment for sin. Even when Jesus healed the blind man, and his disciples even asked him, well, who sinned then? And he says, well, neither this man or his parents sinned, but that the glory of God should be revealed in him. So it's a very important message, and my role out there was to give my personal experience of growing up totally blind, to give my testimony as a Christian, to give some ideas of what helped me as I grew up, and the attitudes that have impacted my life. And that's basically how I got involved with Through the Roof as a volunteer to start with.
Oh, that's brilliant. And you've been to Guatemala more than once, I believe?
Yeah, 3 times now.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, and each time you've been able to build on what you did the previous time?
Yeah, and we've seen really amazing differences.
Fantastic. And is it working with the same people or new people, or a combination of the two?
We work with 3 partners out there, and one is a school for disabled children, and it's halfway up a volcano, and that's called New Life in Education, and that's with 2 missionaries called Judy and Amy. So we go and we visit them. We do go back to the school, but Judy normally takes us around to schools or churches that she knows would benefit from our training. The same goes with the other 2 partners that we've got. One is another school, a Christian school called America Latina, and they train teachers, and we've been in there 3 times now talking to training teachers about how they can include disabled children in their classes. And the final partner is Love the Child, which is actually an orphanage. So Steve takes us to places where he knows our training could be of use, say to churches or to disability clubs, or anywhere that he thinks that it will be invaluable to them.
Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, thank you for sharing that experience with us all. And since March of this year, you've had a different role within Through the Roof. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, my role since March has been the Disabled Youth Ambassador. So I go around talking to churches or to youth groups or anywhere that will invite me to schools, anywhere, giving them, again, my personal testimony and my experiences, giving the biblical basis of what Through the Roof believes God says about disability, and telling them what Through the Roof is about, how we can help them or how they could get involved. Things like that, really, and just giving them a practical demonstration of disabled people being included in everyday life.
So if any of our groups or the churches that connect to us wanted to find out more about what Through the Roof can offer, and the information that can be provided to them to help them to be more inclusive, then you would be willing to go and have that discussion with them?
Absolutely, yeah, be more than willing, very happy to do that.
Fantastic. And if there are groups and churches that do want to access more information, Tim, is there information available on a website, or what else can Through the Roof offer to groups and churches that want to find out more about this?
Yeah, we have a website, throughtheRoof.org, and on there you can see some articles, inspiration about including disabled people in church life, community life. We also have publications through our shop site, which is online there, and also training. We offer training, standard or bespoke training to church groups, youth groups, to look at this whole area of how do we include all abilities in one group.
So both person-to-person training and information via the website is available. Are there costs for accessing that information at all?
The website obviously has a number of free articles, publications. There's a small cost to pay for those. For the training, there is a cost to that. It depends on if it's a standard training workshop or a bespoke training workshop, but it's usually a half-day workshop for around about £175.
Fantastic. So there's a real wealth of material that's available, and with the training and with what Philippa's doing as the youth ambassador, it's really a strong message that's being sent out into the church community, not just in this country, but as we've learned today, overseas as well, in places like Guatemala. Are there other places as well as Guatemala that Through the Roof are reaching with this message?
Yeah, we have effectively 4 programs at Through the Roof. We have our Wheels for the World program, where we take refurbished wheelchairs to developing countries, just basically providing the gift of a wheelchair and a Bible in the recipient's own language. So that demonstrates God's love to disabled people. We also have disabled Christian fellowship groups, so a network of groups around the UK, providing that opportunity for disabled people to come together. Churches Inc. is our resourcing, publications, training element. Integrate is really encouraging young people, young disabled people, to get involved in church and community life, and empowering church leaders to make that happen. Integrate operates overseas in Guatemala and also Uganda, and we're also exploring a trip to Moldova shortly as well. Wheels of the World predominantly covers the Eastern African countries, so Uganda, Kenya, but also wider than that, has also been out to Tajikistan, for example. So we're really trying to send out the message of inclusion across the globe.
That's fantastic. And if any of our groups, churches that are connected to us, want to find out more information about what you're doing overseas, maybe get involved, maybe support the work that you're doing there, then they can contact you to establish some communication there.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to welcome anyone who wants to get involved more in depth in this area. We're particularly looking for young people to be a buddy for people like Philippa on a mission trip that just can be there to support them, and that could be an opportunity that someone over the age of 16 would want to experience life in a different country, but also supporting a young disabled person on their own mission, their own journey overseas as well. So we would love to hear from any youth leaders, young people that want to get more involved in this whole area of inclusion.
That's great, thank you. And Philip, a final word from you. If there are groups or churches that are watching this and thinking, what difference does it make to the life of a child or young person with a disability or with a special need to have that kind of inclusion provided by the church, to really have that at the heart of what a church or a group offers? What would you say to them as somebody who obviously has benefited from that in your own life?
I'd say that it makes all the difference in the world. I mean, my church, I was born totally blind, and my church have been so supportive and inclusive my whole life. So I was included in Sunday school, and rather than adapt everything that they taught, they just adapted one little thing so I could remember the Bible stories. Instead of having a worksheet, I had things that I made, so a cardboard pair of cardboard feet to represent the story where a woman washes Jesus' feet with her tears. And I've always remembered that story because of what I was able to make. So it was a tactile representation of the story. They've also been very inclusive in the fact that my pastor's wife learnt Braille so that she could braille out the worksheets for Sunday school and the hymns for church. Later on they got a hymn book developed in Braille so that I could carry on being part of the worship. So they've been so supportive and inclusive that it really shows up when I go to a church when I'm on holiday and I walk in between my parents and they'll greet my parents and not me. And the one thing that, they could do is just say hello. I'm a normal person just like anyone else. Just because I can't see, it scares people, which is fine. I mean, I understand that people are going to be scared because it's something different. But what I want to say really is if you just make that one small effort, even if it's just greeting somebody, you've then established a link with them. If you don't talk to them at all, if they're blind, they're not even going to be really aware that you're around. There's just going to be a whole bunch of people. And no one in that church has really been supportive. And it just makes such a difference if I feel welcome in a church. And that's a really big thing. I mean, I know in my church I've grown up there and everybody knows me, so I can walk in and everybody will greet me. But if I go away on holiday, I sometimes feel really, really isolated because no one's even said hello. So it's just that those, tiny, tiny little adaptations or changes, little efforts that people can make that make the most difference.
Philippa, thank you so much for being with us today and for sharing your stories and your experiences with us and for the offer to be able to go and visit our groups and the churches that connect to us to share more about what Through the Roof can offer to them. And Tim, thank you for being with us as well and for all you're doing in leading Through the Roof forward. And we hope and pray for continued growth and God's favour in all that Through the Roof does in the years ahead. Remember that on the Energise website there is a series of articles that look at ways in which children and young people with disabilities and special needs can be better supported within your group and church, and much of that material has been drawn on the resources that Through the Roof make available. We are also launching a new training seminar for churches who are keen to be more inclusive in their work with children and young people. Most children's and youth workers want to include kids of all abilities and needs in what they do, but many struggle to make this a reality. All Inclusive is an essential seminar for parents, teachers, church leaders, youth leaders and children's workers. In fact, anyone who works with children and young people with special or additional needs and wants to know more about this sometimes complex area and how their work can be more inclusive. To find out more, including how to host an all-inclusive seminar at your church, visit the information on the Energise website or contact me directly at marnold@urbansaints.org. I would also really encourage you to follow up with Through the Roof if you would like a visit or if you need more information, and to really think about how inclusion can be a key part of your children's and youth work.